This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The Algerian people are commemorating today the 71st anniversary of the outbreak of the Glorious Revolution of November 1st, 1954, an epic event that enshrined the sovereignty of national decision-making and the right of the Algerian people to self-determination. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama, has affirmed that Algeria did not vote on the draft resolution providing for the renewal of the mandate of the United Nations mission for the referendum in Western Sahara, MINURSO, saying it does not meet the legitimate aspiration of the Sahrawi people. And the UN has expressed concern over reports of summary executions, gang rapes, and abductions since the RSF took control of the Sudanese city of Al Fashir. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. Good afternoon. First in our news, the Algerian people are commemorating today the 71st anniversary of the outbreak of the Glorious Revolution of November 1st, 1954, an epic event that enshrined the sovereignty of national decision-making and the right of the Algerian people to self-determination, principles that the Algerian state has placed at the heart of its founding texts and which serve as the guiding principles for its domestic and foreign policy. The Proclamation of November 1st, 1954 is the main reference for all the constitutions of the Algerian Republic since the restoration of national sovereignty. In the preamble of the 2020 Constitution, which begins with the words, "The Algerian people are a free people and are determined to remain so," it is expressly stated that November 1st, 1954 and its founding proclamation were the keys to its destiny and the culmination of a long resistance to attacks on its culture, values, and fundamental components of its identity. It also mentions that the quest for the people's support made it possible to achieve decisive victories marked by the recovery of its sovereignty, the recovery of its national wealth, and the construction of a state at its exclusive service, as well as the strengthening of the legitimacy of the state exercising its powers in the service of national independence and free from any external pressure. The Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Mr. Azzouz Nasri, has affirmed on Friday, on the occasion of the 71st anniversary of the glorious November 1st Revolution, the commitment to continue on the path of dedication and construction for a victorious Algeria. Mr. Nasri wrote on his personal social media account that on the occasion, we remember the sacrifices and heroism of those who liberated the homeland and built the glory of Algeria. He added that in our loyalty to the martyr's legacy, we continue on the path of commitment and construction for a victorious Algeria, an Algeria that continues its march towards pride and sovereignty. For his part, the Speaker of the People's National Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, congratulated the Algerian people on the occasion of the 71st anniversary of the War of Liberation of November 1st, 1954, extending to them his warmest congratulations and sincerest wishes. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Mr. Ammar Benjama, has affirmed that Algeria did not vote on the draft resolution providing for the renewal of the mandate of the United Nations mission for the referendum in Western Sahara, MINURSO, saying it does not meet the legitimate aspirations of the Sahrawi people. In his speech before the Council's members, Mr. Benjama stressed that the draft resolution, which the United States submitted to the Security Council vote, does not live up to the aspirations and hopes of the people of Western Sahara, represented by the Polisario Front, who have been struggling for more than 50 years now to have the sole right to self-determination, adding that the text reflects neither faithfully nor sufficiently the UN doctrine on decolonization, whose implementation enabled many nations to be represented within the United Nations. Let's listen to Mr. Benjama.
Mon pays n'a pas participé au vote sur ce projet de résolution.
My country did not participate in the vote on this draft resolution providing for the renewal of the mandate of the United Nations mission for the organization of a referendum in Western Sahara. By this absence and in full responsibility, Algeria illustrated its distance from a text that reflects neither faithfully nor sufficiently the UN doctrine on decolonization. It is the implementation of this doctrine that has allowed many nations to be represented here among us.
Ici parmi nous.
The Algerian diplomat also indicated that in its capacity as neighboring country to both parties to the conflict in Western Sahara, Algeria participated in good faith and in a constructive spirit in the negotiations of the initial text, admitting that improvements had been made to the initial text, which now includes the fundamental elements of a just and lasting solution to the Western Sahara conflict and the inalienable right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination. Mr. Benjama concluded by saying that Algeria remains committed to the principle of the peaceful settlement of disputes and also remains faithful to the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter, and that is always ready to engage in full sovereignty with responsibility and creativity in any negotiation that respects the principles of equity, impartiality, and justice in the definitive settlement of the question of Western Sahara. Let's listen to him again.
Et l'Algérie, dans sa démarche,
Algeria in its approach, and I would like to reaffirm this here, taking you all as witnesses, remains faithful to the principle of the peaceful settlement of disputes, remains faithful to the objectives and principles of the United Nations Charter. Algeria will always be ready, yes, always ready to engage in full sovereignty with responsibility and creativity in any negotiations that respects the cardinal principles of equity, impartiality, and justice. Yes, justice, with a view to the definitive settlement of the question of Western
de
Sahara.
la question du Sahara occidental.
Finally, the Algerian representative regretted that the pen holder, namely the US, despite all its efforts, was unable to overcome the resistance to include the necessary amendments and make the text acceptable to everyone. Meanwhile, the Polisario Front representative to the UN, Sidi Mohamed Omar, reiterated the Sahrawi people's firm attachment to their inalienable right to self-determination and independence, and to defending their rights and sovereignty by all legitimate means, stressing their unwavering determination to continue their liberation struggle and resistance by all legitimate means to achieve their national aspirations for freedom and independence, and to recover their sovereignty over Western Sahara.
إن جبهة البوليساريو هي الممثل الشرعي والوحيد.
The Polisario Front is the legitimate and sole representative and the voice of the Sahrawi people who have taken to the streets these days all over the world to demonstrate massively and to declare loudly and clearly that they are attached to their legitimate right to self-determination and independence, and to defend in their rights and sovereignty by all legal means. Therefore, the Polisario Front strongly and resolutely affirms the unwavering determination of the Sahrawi people to continue their liberation struggle and resistance by all legitimate means to achieve their national aspirations for freedom and independence, and to restore their sovereignty over the entire territory of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic.
In another file now, the A3+ group in the UN Security Council has reiterated its call for the immediate withdrawal of all foreign forces, foreign fighters and mercenaries from Libyan territory, emphasizing that the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of the country must be respected. Mariam Bershi has more details.
Addressing a session of the United Nations Security Council on the situation in Libya, Algeria's permanent representative to the UN, Ammar Benjama, expressed support on behalf of the A3+ group for the role of the United Nations support mission in Libya in assisting the country in its effort to achieve peace, stability and dialogue, stressing that Libya stands at a crossroads in its contemporary history, a moment that demands the full attention of the international community. The A3+ group highlighted the necessity of building any political roadmap facilitated by UNSMIL, the United Nations support mission in Libya, on a solid foundation for Libyan ownership and leadership, providing a path to ending the protracted transitional phase through the holding of free, fair and transparent national election.
We voted in favor of this resolution as a demonstration of our continued support for UNSMIL's role in assisting Libya's effort to foster peace, stability, and dialogue. President, Libya stands at a crossroad in its modern history, a moment that requires the full attention of the international community. The A3 Plus underscores the need for any political roadmap facilitated by UNSMIL to be firmly anchored in Libya, in Libyan ownership and leadership, and to offer a pathway to ending the protracted transitional phase through free, fair, and transparent national elections.
The group concluded its statement by emphasizing that failure is a burden that the international community cannot bear, and that it will be judged by history, stressing that fulfilling this historical responsibility is a shared duty towards the Libyan people.
Under the instructions of the President of the Republic, Ms. Abdelmadjid Tebboune, the Minister of Culture and Arts, Mrs. Malika Bendouda, is on a visit to Egypt to take part in the official opening ceremony of Egypt's Grand Museum. The global cultural event, one of the most eagerly anticipated on the international scene, will be attended by sovereigns, heads of state, ministers, leaders of international organizations and institutions, alongside an elite group of eminent cultural figures from around the world. Shifting now to the Middle East, where the representative of the State of Palestine to the UN, Riyad Mansour, has affirmed that the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip remains very fragile and faces repeated and serious violations carried out by the Israeli occupying forces. Miriam Bershi has more.
In letters sent to the UN Secretary-General and the Presidents of the UN Security Council and General Assembly, he stressed that hundreds of violations were carried out for the past 3 weeks, causing the killing of 211 Palestinians, including women and children, and the destruction of infrastructure. The Palestinian ambassador underlined that thousands of Palestinians were still reported missing and their bodies still trapped in the rubble following the massive destruction of the Gaza Strip, while noting that the number of deaths in the war waged against the Palestinians exceeds 68,000. In this respect, he urged the international community, and particularly the mediating countries, namely the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, to press for an immediate cessation of the violations of the ceasefire agreement, to speed up the recovery of bodies, facilitate the reconstruction process, and accelerate the total Israeli troop pull-out of Gaza. This came as 2 Palestinians were killed and a third one wounded in attacks launched by the Israeli forces against various parts of the Gaza Strip. According to the news agency WEFA, 110 people were killed, including 46 children and 20 women, in recent air raids launched by the Israeli army in defiance of the ceasefire enforced last month in Gaza. In this connection, the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls, Rima Salam, criticized the world's indifference regarding the Israeli attacks targeting the Palestinian women and their endured suffering. She emphasized that the scale of the Israeli forces' brutality was beyond the existing legal frameworks, making the current concepts and legal tools powerless in the face of the horror of the Palestinians are confronted to.
And the United Nations has expressed concern over reports of summary executions, gang rapes and abductions since the rapid support paramilitary forces RSF took control of Al-Fashir in Sudan. After an 18-month siege, the RSF took Al-Fashir last week, the last major city in Darfur that had remained outside their control, and where reports and information about deadly violence against civilians have been mounting since then. And the NGO Médecins Sans Frontières, MSF, has said that it feared that a large number of people were still in grave danger of death in the Sudan city of Al-Fashir, which had been taken by the RSF. In a statement, MSF condemned the mass atrocities and horrific massacres committed both indiscriminately and against targeted ethnic groups this week in Al-Fashir and its surroundings. And hundreds of Senegalese protesters have gathered peacefully in Dakar to protest against the high cost of living amid an economic crisis. The demonstration, authorized by the authorities, was organized by the Front for the Defense of Democracy and the Republic, a new coalition of several political parties. 18 months ago, the elected president in the first round, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, and his mentor and now Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko came to power, bringing hope to a large part of society. And outgoing Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan won the presidential election with more than 95% of the vote, according to preliminary results broadcast. The final results are expected later today to be followed by the inauguration ceremony of the newly elected president. With this, we come to the end of this news bulletin. Time now for our weekly programs, mainly devoted to the celebration of the 71st anniversary of the outbreak of the National Liberation War. And as we always say, you can follow our programs on our official Facebook page, on our official account on X platform, and on our app, My Algerian Radio, downloadable on smartphones and cars. And with this, we come to the end of it. We'll meet you again tomorrow. Thank you.
The proclamation of November 1st, 1954 is the main reference for all the constitutions of the Algerian Republic since the restoration of national sovereignty. In the preamble to the 2020 Constitution, which begins with the words "The Algerian people are a free people and are determined to remain so," it is expressly stated that November 1st, 1954 and its founding proclamation were the keys